I was obviously very aware of previously there might be one or two people from a band that kind of prosper, but history says there's not normally often more than two really. And that was really scary because I was never going to put myself in that group of two, ever. So that's another reason why I feel so thankful.
Thanks for doing this, man.
No
I'm glad
worries.
to be doing this with you. How's the rollout been going so far?
It's been good, dare I say. I've been enjoying it. I'm not someone who's had loads of enjoyment out of promo in the past, truthfully. I kind of love writing and love performing, but I feel really excited about the record. It's the first time where I'm like really willing to show it off, and I feel really good about that.
What's been different about this time?
I think the confidence that I built up from the last two tours, that was vital for me. And I think what I love about those live moments is it doesn't really leave any room for any kind of self-doubt or anything like that. And I definitely struggled with that post the band. But from being in those live spaces and delivering night after night, that it's like an undeniable feeling, you know? So I'm coming into this record with a different kind of, I feel like revitalized in my confidence. It's a nice feeling.
I was going to ask about that kind of confidence, which I can hear on the record.
Thank you.
After promoting Faith in the Future, did you just kind of harness that energy and that confidence and get right back into it and just the ideas start flowing? Like, how did the touring inform that studio time, just in terms of like the confidence of it?
To write this kind of record, I feel like to write the record that I deserve to make, I feel like I had to come from a more confident point of view. I've definitely been quite hard on myself in the past, and that affects the creation as well. So it was towards the end of the Faith in the Future tour, we started doing a bit of writing, like residential camps. What was really nice about that is because I knew that I wasn't in any rush to make the record, and this is like 2 years ago now, I had the opportunity to be able to make mistakes. And creatively, that's a really good thing. You know, you're trying to find the edge and where that lives. And also, I didn't want to imagine being on tour, and even reflecting 3 months after tour, it's still not quite as good as writing in the moment, you know? So there was a couple of times where I'd have like a week off tour or something, I'd go and do a bit of writing. So I did that for maybe 2 or 3 weeks and then finished the tour. And then I had quite a decent break really between writing after that. I wanted to scratch that itch and do some writing while I was on tour, but I also wanted to allow myself the time because in the past, on previous records, I can feel the clock ticking, and that's not a good feeling. As I say, creatively, you need space. So the whole process with this record has just been done with the album first, which, has been a really enjoyable way of I suppose this is the correct way of making a record.
Yeah. You said something when you announced the album, which I found really interesting. You said, I'm still learning and getting better as a singer and a songwriter. You know, as someone like yourself who's accomplished so much, doesn't necessarily need to say like, I'm still getting better, I'm still learning, I'm still figuring it out. Like, it just seems like there's this innate curiosity and innate like sense to keep growing and keep pushing forward. Do you feel that kind of within yourself?
Yeah, definitely. And in the name of like being a songwriter or any kind of art or any kind of skill, you don't get to a master level and then you've completed it. Like, you know, there's always more room to grow, and especially in the name of art. This like this record, for example, I decided to record most of it and do a lot of the writing in Costa Rica, kind of surrounding myself in how I wanted the record to feel. So yeah, this record as a whole has been about taking risks really, and until now I've felt like I've been a bit of a pressure cooker. So the idea of doing anything overly risky is like, I've got enough on my plate as it is. But as I said, there's been a different feeling with this record. I've been willing to kind of take those risks.
Where did that pressure cooker come from?
I think that's the nature of the industry. You know, it's a numbers-based industry definitely, and it's competitive by nature. And also coming out of a band the size of One Direction, you know, eyes are on you and you're expected to succeed instantly. So those things, I think are normal to feel. But if you let it, it'll steer you that, you know, and it'll make you make the wrong decisions. And I've tried to come at this record with a bit more of a bird's eye view, as much as that's possible in this kind of crazy job.
There's this trend in pop over the past couple of years. You see a lot of artists succeeding after years of putting in the work.
yeah.
You think of someone like Charlie XCX, Sabrina Carpenter,
Yeah.
Teddy Swims. Like, you have these artists who are breaking through after years of hard work and just kind of, putting pedal to the metal and trying to figure it out. You're about to play to your biggest solo audiences 10 years into your solo career. Is there more of an appreciation now than there would have been 5-10 years ago? Do you feel like you're more ready to meet this moment that's coming up?
I think a combination of things. I think like it's the right kind of time for me to make this record and come from this place of confidence. And as things are building like professionally, they've almost kind of met in the middle. I also think, all of those examples you just given, none of those are by coincidence, by mistake, So I think when the industry is this more competitive than it's ever been, staying power is a really important thing. So it's always been on my mind, to not be someone who kind of fizzles out. I'm always trying to think long term. But part of it also is lucky coincidence, is the fact that I'm feeling really good right now and, the business is doing better than it has previously. I mean, those two are probably connected.
A little taste is all I need. Lemonade. How much of your personal life inspired your creative process here?
I'm not really very good at faking it, to be honest. So I mentioned before, there was a time in my life where things were a little bit more challenging, let's just say that. And that's frustrating as a writer in a very crass way. Because if you're an autobiographical writer and maybe you're not, feeling incredible, then you're not going to write joyous, happy songs. That's just the reality. So I think, I'm lucky that I'm definitely in a much more positive place. And I think that comes across in the record. But I kind of had to wait for those feelings instead of just writing them and acting them. I'm not really that kind of singer.
I've got a couple of names in my head and on my notes on my phone for what the album might be called.
The album title, it's kind of used on Lucid as this kind of crescendo. Like, what made sense about that, turning that moment into the album title?
Yeah, I was at the 11th hour and we really I had like a short list of like 10. A mix between some lyrics or some stuff that wasn't actually a lyric or whatever. And nothing had the same kind of scale that I wanted it to feel like a big sell in the name. And I also wanted something that I could share with the fans. So I was just listening to Lucid on the way to work one day and the mid-late came in, and of course I've heard it before, but it was the first time I was literally thinking about the album title when it was playing. And from the first time I heard it, in the context of the title, I couldn't beat it. Like, that to me is a really good title for where I'm at, and also something that we can share together, me and the fans. And it's not a question to me necessarily, it's more of a statement. I'm just in awe of what's happening. And the last tour went so well, we're playing even bigger spaces this time around. I'm just in awe of the situation, and that's me just saying, how the fuck did I get here?
It's been 15 years since your guys' X Factor run, which is wild. When you think about that period of X Factor into What Makes You Beautiful, into the first album, into the second album, you play MSG for the first time as you're playing next year. How do you look back on that period specifically in terms of like the rocket ship going up and just everything clicking and everything working, like with some distance to this, like it feels increasingly rare to me as an outsider, but like what is it like for you?
It's something I've definitely been able to appreciate more. I also not someone who, I try not to be an arrogant guy. So when I was in the band, I wasn't too confident talking about how great we were, but now I'm not. I'm more than happy to shout about that. But there was an element for that first 2 years where you were kind of just holding on for dear life, and not in a bad way, in a utterly exciting way. And things were changing so fast. But also, you have to remember that none of us have ever had any experience of what it was supposed to be like to be in a boy band, to be a recording artist, to be a touring artist. So when all this stuff started happening for us at a great level, there was part of us that thought, well, this is just, this is what like really successful artists go through at the start of their process. There was one time that I often talk about was when we did a support gig with Big Time Rush. We had a long speech from our manager, at that point. He's like old school manager, been in the industry like, I don't know, 25 years. He's seen everything there is to see. And he gives us this long like conversation about how this is not going to be a gig that we're used to. People aren't going to know the songs to the words to the album tracks, etc. And we went out there and we opened with an album track, and people were locked in from the start. And that was a moment that I can remember us discussing that afterwards, being like, this guy's got all this experience and he didn't preempt this. So this must be something, I got goosebumps thinking about it now, like there must be something special happening. Because you have to understand, like when you're going through that, and there's no arrogance involved in this, but there's part of it, you just think it's the norm. This is just what happens, right? Yeah. And then as things just keep growing, you're like, okay, maybe this is quite special.
I'm very excited to ask you this question. How have you decided which songs from the band to perform in your solo set? What goes into that process of making a decision of like, I'll sing this one, I'm not gonna sing this one?
Well, for a start, there's a couple that I do that I didn't, but I like to pick one that I wrote.
Sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But the biggest challenge is finding a lyric that feels kind of all right to sing as like a 33-year-old guy. And that's actually it's not the easiest thing to do, because some of those One Direction lyrics are fucking raunchy, man, like proper. So yeah, that's not the easiest thing to do, but it's a really fun thing to do and try and integrate something that fits into the set. And I'm talking more sonically there. I put off singing No Control forever. We get everything we want, right, with social media. Like, you ask for it, just fucking, like, and there's something kind of so beautiful about the fact that everyone was always asking for it and I never did it. But I did Buckle during my Away From Home festival, and actually, I really enjoyed it. I've not sang that song for a long time. And that was a big moment for me and the band, actually, that song. So it was a nice thing to celebrate the fans, for sure.
I mean, it was a huge moment, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, did people lose their minds the first time you sang it again?
Yeah, I think I introduced it by saying something along the lines of, I'm never going to fucking do this again, so enjoy it. So they had to enjoy it. But no, they were singing really loud, man. It was, I instantly felt good about doing it. 'Cause even right before, I was thinking, is this a good idea, doing No Control? But no, it felt great to do it for the fans. I felt their love from it.
When you started your solo career, I'm sure you had some perception of, support from directioners. And what has it been like, that perception when you started versus the reality of seeing the fans and seeing them not only remain for years and years, but grow?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's pretty unheard of how relentless and how loyal they've been for such a long period of time. It was in the back of my mind that One Direction was the size that it was, and that would mean something for me, right? Yeah. I had no idea. I've said before, when I picture my fan base, it's like one entity. But yeah, what's really beautiful is I think, we've shared some pretty formative years together at this point, and we really have, it's a cliche, but we really have grown up together. And there's something really, really powerful about that. Every artist speaks about their fan base with superiority, but there's just such a deep emotional bond. And like I said, you go through those experiences at such a young age. It's something I really cherish, and I feel very, very lucky to have. And I think the fact that they're still around is a testament to them, but it's also a testament to our relationship collectively.
To me, no other pop group in the modern era has had as much individual success as all of you guys. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious what it's been like to experience that from your perspective when you see something like, oh, Harry wins Album of the Year at the Grammys. Oh, Niall's on The Voice for another season. What has it been like to look around and see that?
So I'm glad you asked that question, actually, because I always knew Harry was going to go on to do what he's done. I mean, I'm sure he's superseded his own expectations in the way that he's taken over the world, but we all will have known that deep down. Like, definitely, he's got everything that it takes to be a great artist. Niall I had a good feeling about too. He's Irish, he's lovely, everyone loves him. So of course he's on The Voice, that makes a lot of sense. And very, very happy for him, and he also tours at an immense level and has had some great albums, etc. But I was obviously very aware of, previously, there might be one or two people from a band that kind of prosper. But history says there's not normally often more than two, really. That was really fucking scary, because I was never going to put myself in that group of two, ever. I was never thinking, oh, I'll be in that group that succeeds. So that's another reason why I feel so thankful, because there's been a million times where even just reflecting on what's gone before, I'm like, well, it can't possibly work for me on the level that it has. But it has. So it's also a testament to One Direction and the fact that you've got different personality types. You've got people that like different types of music. And that sounds chaotic to put people like that in a band, but somehow we made it work. But I think that's what makes it interesting now, post One Direction, is we all have something to say. You know, we all have our own loves musically. And luckily, they're quite different to each other's. So it's not like, you know, truly competitive or anything like that. So yeah, it's kind of crazy thing to reflect on. But another thing that just makes me feel really, really grateful. Really grateful.
What has it been like in the years since to watch other pop groups kind of take the mantle from you guys? Obviously, like, you know, they're playing on a different field than you guys. There have been different bands who have had different types of success than you guys. But like, are you paying attention to that stuff?
It's not something I paid like loads of attention to, but there was a time where like BTS, they just like got to their peak. I know they're still there, but when they were on the way up, and I felt like every time I logged into Twitter, they'd just take one of our, like we've got, you know, like some record for something fastest selling thing, and they'd taken it. And I just felt like every week I was going, I was just seeing a new thing taken away from BTS. When I was reading that, and that was probably about 6-7 years ago now, it did make me a little, it was just a bit of a shame, you know. It was like, oh, we had all these things, but I don't begrudge them that. It's not something that I'm listening to all the time, obviously. But no, I think that's the nature of the music industry. It keeps moving, you know. But I still don't think there's been anything similar, really, to One Direction. I'm sure people are trying, but I just think what was really interesting about One Direction is pretty much every boy band that had come before us would fit into quite a specific mold. There was a way of doing boy bands back in the day, you know, dressing all in the same outfits, dancing, etc. We kind of broke free from that mold, and I think that was an important thing in pop, you know, for us to actually have a personality and not just be yes people. So yeah, that's something I'm really proud of.
It's interesting because, like, you know, you guys have talked over the years how there's no handbook for being a boy band.
There kind of was in the 90s. It seemed like there was, because everyone was fucking doing the same thing.
You have to dress this way.
Yeah.
You have to sound like this.
Yeah.
You have to dance this way. What resource would have helped you in terms of like those early days? Like, is there something that, like, if there was a playbook, there is a playbook now.
I think this is maybe just starting to happen. But I find it really interesting that sports psychology coaches are prevalent now throughout sport. They're a vital part of sport. It'd be interesting to see something similar in the music industry, and especially people like us at young ages that were dealing with a lot of pressure at a young age, but also to perform at a really good level. Because often those kind of psychologists will be performance-based. Well, this is a performance-based job for sure. I do think something like that would have helped. That's only really in hindsight, because like I can only speak on my own journey, but you're so young and it's so exciting and every day is so different. I didn't really have too much time to really take it all in. So I think that from having those conversations, that would definitely help. Some kind of voice to chat to, but not just in the name of like therapy, also like performance-based, people that can bring out the best in you. Because, you know, I can remember that as an 18-year-old lad, you literally get brought out, thrown in the lights and go deal with it, you know. And you have people there to help you craft your skill. But things like inner confidence, you're just expected to have those things.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that definitely takes, especially as a young person, it takes a bit of direction, I think.
Yeah. You've talked about the past year, the four of you guys becoming closer, and obviously now you have a collaborative project with Zayn. Do you think that closeness is there for the long haul? Is it going to continue, or is it kind of TBD?
I suppose that the reality, the answer there is we'll see in time. I think these things, you know, naturally there is a closeness, But I think what's tough with all of us really is we're all so busy. And I think like it definitely feels closer than it was. But I suppose it also depends like person to person. Like Niall, and hopefully he'd say the same about me. Like we could like not exchange a text in a whole year and then go for a beer and literally be chatting non-stop. So it kind of depends on the situation, the circumstance.
What has it been like marketing music in the age of TikTok and short form? And like, is it harder now in terms of like social media in the mid 2020s versus, a decade ago, 15 years ago?
I suppose it's like one of those. There's probably pros and cons really to the new form. I resisted it for the longest time, TikTok. It's like an ever-growing list of requirements as an artist these days, and TikTok just joined that. I thought that it made me cool to not be on TikTok, and I've now realized it makes me fucking old. So, and I'm at that age where I'm at that sweet spot where I still want to come across as a young lad, So, TikTok it is.
This is your "How do you do, fellow kids" moment.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But that thing. Like that's another, like it doesn't feel like a risk to anyone else other than me, but it was something I didn't really feel comfortable doing at first. And yeah, I'm just trying to push the boundaries on this record, even with things like that. You're not going to catch me doing no daft dance yet, but yeah, it's kind of fun, I suppose.
It's interesting, obviously, not just in terms of artists, but all of music is kind of grappling with how to use AI and how like there's AI songs and there's computer generated songs. And what's interesting to me is like when you guys started out, you guys exploded in part because of not only the music but the personality. And is it strange to see like the rise of music that is no personality, that's literally computer generated? Like how do you view something like that more and more people are talking about now?
Do you think that there will be like a shelf life for that kind of music and those kind of songs? I won't be as specific as saying boy bands, but like let's say there are there is other music that maybe there's some music that has more personality than others. There's other music that kind of serves a bit of a purpose. I don't know, if I'm like one of these streamers, which is like all the rage these days, and if I play me video games, and I want to play music on my stream, well, for a start, licensing's a nightmare with that. So you might just put on like an AI playlist there. It's really just background music. So I do think there will be like use cases that aren't like really like provocative and really trying to piss people off. Because it's a little bit like at the moment, things like ChatGPT, not everyone will uses that on the regular. Because a lot of people aren't necessarily sure what to do with it. There's so much choice there. And I think with AI in general, at least in its current form, and who knows what the future holds, but human input is still incredibly necessary. So who knows what we're going into? I sit in this weird halfway house where I am all authenticity, always, but I'm kind of into technology. So It's a difficult conundrum. But I do think there will be use cases that hopefully don't disrupt the industry too much.
Yeah.
I really struggle with the question of, what is its relevance and importance in music? Again, authenticity, I'm a big believer in. But like in terms of like everyday like brainstorming, like I use it all the time. Like it's really important tool for me. So I think if you use it correctly.
Tell me about the tour. Tell me about you're playing arenas.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? What does that represent to be playing these stages?
It's a reflection of where I've come from. And things like playing Madison Square Garden, never in a million fucking years did I think I'd be playing that on my own. So it forces me to give myself a bit more credit too. Like, if I've already exceeded my expectations, who knows what I'll be feeling like by the end of that tour.
This album comes out the same month of your son Freddie's 10th birthday. Which is wild. What has it been like growing and evolving as a person, as a creator, as a father and kind of, playing him music and having him grow up and watch you perform as a solo artist? What has that been like?
It's something I've really struggled with, truthfully, because when I'm with Freddie, if there was a way to ethically hide that I was a singer and that I was doing all of this, I probably would. There was a point in his life where he started becoming a bit more aware that, people would occasionally like stop me in the street. Now I've got a blanket rule that when I'm with Freddie, I don't do any pictures or anything, because my time, I don't get enough time with him as it is, so I cherish those moments. And the first couple of times I would say to people, no, sorry, I'm not going to do it. And then I had to have this conversation with him and be like, I didn't use this word, but basically I wanted to say, Dad's not an arsehole. Like, I'm not a dickhead. The reason I'm saying these things is because I cherish my time with you, and, these people know me because I was in this band. And these are conversations that I am still struggling to get my head around. So having those conversations with a 9 or 10-year-old, especially in the realms of fame, they are challenging. Now, I'm always really excited to play in my music, but the two come in tandem. He knows that people that make music, a lot of them are famous. So it's something that he comes to the shows, right? And that's a real look behind the curtain for him. But it's always something that I am really, really fiercely trying to protect him from. Occasionally I'll brag. It's like he loves palaces. It's not very often that I would hear specifically that he loves a certain song. Occasionally I will press him, like, do you like this? He's like, yeah. But he specifically said he really liked Palaces. I think that's the first time that it's happened like that. So that was cool. Because kids don't lie, man. They don't bullshit you. If he didn't like it, he would tell me. So that's really nice. But I think, the fame thing, it just takes a little bit of navigating. Because you're trying to have grown-up conversations with kids that aren't grown-ups. It's hard.
That must have been really powerful to have him be like, I love this song.
It was amazing. Like, genuinely, some of the most nervous I've been, gigs I've done, is Freddie coming. Now, the irony of that is, like, I could have a botched gig and sing terribly and he'd still be proud of his dad, I hope. But I really want to be great for him. I want to be really cool, I want to look great. I want to sound great. I want him to feel good watching those things. So when he said he was into the song, and more than me just being like, do you like Dad's latest single, that's really cool, man. It makes me feel really good. Genuinely, it's like a really, I'm like, okay, I'm on something with this record.
I love it. Last question is just in terms of looking long term, beyond this album, beyond this tour. Obviously, you'll continue making music. Like, do you have a kind of a long term goal of just, or is it something specific, or is it just more of kind of a nebulous, like, I want to keep writing, I want to keep getting closer to, creating something that I can really, like, kind of captures my artistic expression? What is it like when you think 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line?
I always find this question really difficult to answer because I feel like a bit of a contradiction. I like to think with scale and I like to think big picture, but I hate long-term thinking. I'm very much a short-term thinking kind of guy. So I look to the future and my ideas, I'm always thinking kind of long-term. But in a literal sense, in my job, things change so quickly, and you have to kind of be able to react to these things. It's not something I spend too much time trying to craft, because I could do that right now and be like, okay, what does the next 3 years look like? I guarantee I might be able to make 6 months of that work, but in reality, things just change too often. Even the fact that, my son lives in LA, it's a lot of traveling. Life's just unpredictable. So I'm also, I'm kind of just holding on for the ride, see where it takes me.